Today we're going to be talking about a really important topic, and that is decision making. If you didn't know, ADHDers have a really hard time with decisions and prioritization. Those are kind of the two topics that I wanted to cover today. Okay, so there's the world out there, there's a million choices. How do we decide between them? I've had multiple people on my podcast this past year. I've hired multiple coaches to help me with this process because it's so hard for me to make decisions sometimes. And actually, it's almost all the time. And so today I wanted to share 7 different frameworks that I've learned over the last couple of years that have really helped me, that are really helpful sort of tools and sort of processes to go through while you are making decisions. It's been a hot second because I have been sick. You can kind of tell with my voice, but I just wanted to let you know I am still recovering from an illness, but I'm excited to be back. So hope you guys enjoy this video. Make sure to subscribe for more content around ADHD, Notion, productivity, and marketing, and let's get on to the video. So the first step is actually a really important one, and that is setting a goal or figuring out what your purpose or reason for doing something is. You can't really make a decision unless you know where you want to end up. So this is really the main part that you have to start with. If you have ever seen like a purpose ikigai or any of those types of graphics, you know that we are trying to figure out exactly what we want to do in life. Having goals and outcomes that we want is really the main important step that a lot of people skip. They're like, okay, I just got to do something to figure it out. If you don't have that first step or that goal, I've learned in life, and this is just my personal experience, you're gonna just be in a treadmill that's not going anywhere. You're gonna be in a hamster wheel. You're just gonna be moving in a direction, but not actually moving forward. So having a set goal or figure out what you want is really the first step. I have some resources down below for goal setting and for finding your purpose, but that's honestly what, is probably the hardest step, is figuring out what you want. There's a great book called Designing Your Life. I highly recommend that one. It's a great way to kind of figure out what you specifically want to do. Okay, so now that you've kind of have that first step in mind, let's talk about the second one. This is actually based off of a concept called The One Thing. It's a book that I absolutely recommend, but I was actually rereading it recently and I was realizing, oh my gosh, I can't think of the one thing. You should have one thing in each area of your life as like the main thing, and honestly, I had too many. My struggle is that I have too many options. And there's a paradox of choice. There's all of these different things that happen to us in our society these days. We have way too many things that we can choose from. So we get something called analysis paralysis, where we're like, oh my gosh, which way do I go? I don't want to make a mistake. So one of the things you have to think about is, what's the one thing that's the most important to me? And it might take some time to sit down and actually write it out and be like, okay, what is the thing that's going to get me the most success or the most fulfilled, and put that at the top. Because I think the biggest thing is sometimes we put like 3 or 4 things at the same level of importance when there should be one that's much higher. It's not saying you only have to do one thing, but that one thing should be the most important, and then everything else falls below it. So if you haven't read The One Thing, there's a ton of different really cool graphics in there that kind of helped with the decision making, and it's been very helpful for me in my life when I'm overwhelmed with too many choices. Okay, this one is a pretty popular option. I've actually had someone come on my podcast years ago talking about it, but it's the Eisenhower Matrix. It's figuring out the difference between urgent, not urgent, important, and not important. So basically, you can write down all the things that you want to do into these 4 categories, and it will literally tell you what you should be working on right now. So if there's something that you want to do, but it's not important, that's something that you shouldn't probably prioritize. One of the things I also wanted to talk about is my prioritization system inside of Notion. I have set up a system for every single database where I have the exact same 5 different levels of importance. And I'll show you guys over here what these look like. I have organized them by color and with the little emojis, which is kind of helpful, but it's helpful for me to know, okay, what is like the number one most important thing? And it's hard sometimes when you're like, is this one more important than this one? You kind of have to think backwards, like if this one went away, would that be the worst thing ever? So which one is the worst thing that could happen? You kind of have to think about it backwards. So that's kind of how I would prioritize it. Like if this didn't happen, what would happen? So it's kind of a chain reaction. So that's definitely one thing I would recommend doing, is starting to figure out, okay, do I have a system for even assigning priority to all the stuff that I'm doing? And then also, obviously, I use my 13 pillars. And so it's hard because even within the 13 pillar system, there's not like a hierarchy of priority. So it is something that I definitely have to think about, figuring out, okay, what's the next most important thing to do right now? Okay, so this is actually kind of a category for number 4 of different tools that I actually recently discovered. I recently discovered the concept of a razor. A razor is basically a statement or a tool, maybe a parable that is cut down to just usually a sentence. It actually helps you make decisions really easily. It's kind of just like wise advice, but there's a couple of ones around decision making that I thought I would share. Okay, so this one's called the Bezos razor. I'm assuming it's after Jeff Bezos. It says, if unsure what action to take, let your 90-year-old self make it. So, things like that, or if unsure of who to work with, pick the person that has the best chances of breaking you out of a third world prison. So it's these things like that where they're just like a phrase that kind of helps you think about things in a different way. So here's one called the inversion razor. If stuck on a problem, invert it and think through it upside down. It helps identify and eliminate obstacles. For example, instead of what 3 things are critical to making X work, what 3 things, if not done, would make X fail. It's just a way to think about things a different way. It's called the inversion razor. Here's one called the uphill decision razor. When faced with 2 options, choose the one that's more difficult in the short term. See, they're just simple statements that really help you make that decision. I like this one. It's called the rooms razor. If you have a choice between entering 2 rooms, choose the room where you are more likely to be the dumbest one in the room. It's true. Once you're in, talk less, listen more. You don't want to be the smartest person in the room. You want to be the dumbest so that you can learn. Okay, here's one called the right now razor. When deciding whether to take something on, ask yourself, do I want to do this right now? We delay it on things because we aren't excited. If I'm so enthused that I want to take it right that moment, odds are it's an exciting opportunity. So basically if it's not a hell yes, it's a no. That's another great one. This one has been kind of trending lately. It's called the man in the arena razor. When faced with 2 paths, choose the path that puts you in the arena. Choose the path with real skin in the game. It's scary and lonely in the arena, but that's where growth happens. So those are just some examples of some of the razors that I found. I have a whole list inside of Notion. I probably will share it at some point, but you can follow a few people down below that share a ton of razors, so I just wanted to share them as well. Okay, so now that we've gone through the decision razors, let's talk about one of my favorite frameworks, and it's actually from somebody who was on an episode of my podcast. It's called the Divergent Thinking Framework, and this is by an amazing person. His name is Jake from Creative Hackers, and I'm actually just gonna put a clip from the episode because he talks about decision making, especially with those with ADHD. So I wanted to share that here.
I mean, so one of the main paradoxes is the reason we don't know what we want to do with our lives is because we're not taking action. The reason we're not taking action is because we're not making decisions. The reason we're not making decisions is we're scared of picking the wrong option. The reason we're scared of picking the wrong option is because we're scared of wasting our time. Now, sidebar, one of our deepest fear, generally speaking, is living our whole life without fulfilling our potential. So we're terrified of wasting our time. So as a result of that, we're scared of making the wrong decisions. So then we get stuck and then we procrastinate and we're sitting about wasting our time. So the whole paradox is that the reason we're not taking action is because we're scared of picking the wrong thing and wasting our time, which means we get stuck and then procrastinate and end up wasting our time. And we just get stuck in this thing and we try and think our way out of overthinking. Now, I started to realize that after about 9 months of trying to figure out what I'm going to do, what am I going to do in my life after the music industry, I realized I was stuck in this paradox. And I thought, oh my God, I might as well take some action because whilst I might fail, at least I'm moving forward. Which is when I started my blog, basically. Yeah. And basically by putting this down, right, when we're in these thinking loops, we're not sitting here in a very logical sort of frame of mind going A to B to C to D. However, when I take all that and put that onto, in Canva and put it in a simple 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, people can see that they're actually stuck in paradoxes.
You guys should listen to the full episode. It is such a game changer for how I think about ADHD and just how my brain works. So highly recommend that. You can listen to the full thing below. But it's definitely a different decision-making process if you have ADHD. Okay, this is kind of a fun one. It's called the HALT Method. It's basically, am I hungry, angry, lonely, or tired? Because honestly, sometimes we make terrible decisions when we are one of those four. So that's one thing to think about, is just to stop and say, hey, am I hungry, angry, lonely, or tired? Because that might make my decision different. Okay, so the next one is a fun one. It's called the 6 thinking hats. And basically there's 6 different color hats. You've got yellow, green, red, white, black, and blue. And so each one kind of represents a part of our brain. So white is basically data, facts, information. Red is feelings, hunches, instinct, and intuition. Black's hat is difficulties, potential problems, why something may not work. Yellow is values and benefits, why something may work. Blue is manage, process, next steps, and action plans. And green is creativity, solutions, alternatives, and new ideas. So basically, in order to have all of the different decision-making tools, you would need to wear all 6 hats and really think about a problem from all 6 perspectives. So I thought that was helpful. I don't really know much about this one. I kind of seen it a lot online, and I just thought it was a helpful one to share. So if you want to do some more research into the 6 hats method, go check it out below. Okay, I wanted to end with one that's probably the most important one, and that is the analysis paralysis, or paradox of choice. We as a society have way too many options, and especially if you are an ADHDer who likes to explore different avenues, maybe you're a multi-potentialite and you have a ton of different ideas for the world, it's hard sometimes to choose or cut back from things that you want to work on. So I guess my final result is just, not being afraid to say no to things. I don't know about you, I know some people are afraid to say yes. I'm afraid to say no, because when opportunities come my way, I'm always like, yes. But one of the new things I've started doing is I have to think about it, like, do I have time for this? Does this take away from the things I'm already working on? Is this a right now thing, or can I move this back? So just sometimes things come out of the blue and it's a great opportunity, so you should pounce on that. But there's other ones that actually are more of a distraction than anything. So making sure you're clear on your boundaries around your time, your mental capacity and mental load, as well as just your overall strategy and goals. If you are constantly getting bombarded with new ideas or opportunities that don't align with your mission, learn to say no, because that is really what's going to help you in the long run. So I want to do more content on this topic because it is something I personally struggle with probably more than almost any other topic. And so I hope that I can keep doing some more research and share with you guys my findings. I hope that you guys leave some comments below where you tell me some strategies that you have, and maybe I will share them in future video. Make sure to subscribe for more. My course is coming soon on digital organization. I've had to send it back a little bit because of my sickness, but hoping it's coming very soon. Hope you guys enjoyed this video, and talk to you soon.